Hello Internet, I'm Dakian. I am welcoming you to my miniatures ramble for Monday, the 8th of April, 2018? 2019. Damn it, I still forget that sometimes. Oh boy. Anyway, we have a lot to go through here, so let's get started. First off, I finished the demons that were like almost done last week. And we see here the very biggest guy, front and center. He was fun to paint. Well, not much to say about that. Tried to make the flames look good on the sword. I used I decided a classical demon should have red skin, so what do I make with the fur and the hair to contrast it? Well, pale green, instead of just normal black or gray, which would look boring. And yeah, that's him. And then we have this guy. Oops. This guy is a little unbalanced. His wings tend to make him fall over backwards. I've tried to gently bend them a little bit forwards to oops, you see, but can't do that too much or they will, yeah, but metal is good in this way. You can sort of, it's slightly soft, you can reposition it. It's better than plastic in that regard. Anyway, I went with different skin colors for all of them. And partly I just sort of followed the box art. So this guy is more orangey, but he also has the green hair. I added some blood effects. It's supposed to look like blood on this polearm or something. This guy with purple skin is the only one who doesn't have wings. Did not come with wings. He has a nice turtle shell shield instead. I don't know if it's a he or a she. Really, are there these breasts or just really pendulous pecs? Well, you be the judge. I'm not gonna say anything. And so we have the two female Eringes or Succubi or whatever. The one with blue skin, one with green, both with red hair, and some little paint jobs on the wings. Now these two, I had a lot of trouble with the wings. The attachment points were not good. They were not cut up in a way that made it easy to attach. They fell off several times despite gluing, and so eventually I had to pin them. I had to like add pins on top of the sort of sculpted in indentations and nubs and holes because it wasn't enough, and I think they're holding out, but I'm still kind of worried not trying to touch them too much. And here of course there's supposed to be some blood effects on these neck stumps, on these severed heads hanging there. Yeah, they're not terribly, I haven't done a very detailed paint jobs on them. But they're, you know, there's so much going on visually, there's so many different parts and different fields of them, that I feel it's not really worth it to focus too much on any one single zone of the mini, so to speak, but just give you a general idea of what they're supposed to look like. And yeah, a fun bunch of demons. Could be useful for in some D&D session maybe in the future. Now for something completely different, some sci-fi minis. I haven't painted those in a long while. These are the two hassle-free minis that I stuck on MicroArts Basis and painted up at the painting evening at this game store last Monday. And one is kind of bright, one is dark. This one I painted up, I decided to do like Stormtrooper armor on this one. So it's supposed to be white, slightly bluish shades. I decided that, you know, if she has all white armor and she's showing her face and hair, painting her like a normal human being, like, you know, Caucasian, just pale flesh, pale hair, it would all look very pale. It would not stand out in any way. So let's make her an alien, I thought. And alien females, ooh, I decided to make an Orion stormtrooper. Not a slave girl, just a stormtrooper. Orion soldier. Green face, red hair. I think it looks striking. Not sure about this one, especially in the light I have here right now. This one looks really dark, but I wanted to go make her look more tactical. You know, like it's camo. It's not. I haven't painted any camo pattern because there's not enough room to really on any specific surface, because it's broken up in a lot of different kinds of spaces. In painting a pattern on top of that would just look extremely confusing. Oh, at this angle you can see a little bit more the light. I don't know, and I didn't go for any drastic highlights either, because, you know, no, I wanted to look sort of subdued, a little bit more realistic. Hopefully that came across. And I mean, the green on the armor is basically it's Army Painter's Army Green, which I believe is normally called olive drab in other paint schemes. And then there's a slightly brighter green and a subdued orange. I went with the orange because I wanted something that would break off from all the green, but not too much, not be such a high contrast that it would look unrealistic. Like, this would not be something a soldier would ever wear, because she would stand out on the battlefield too much and get shot. This is a little bright, but not too bright, I hope. Yeah, I think it works. But, you know, overall I'm really pleased with these. And finally, I've finished a few of these Avalonians, Kingdom of Avalon set for Alchemy. These are half of them, 6 out of 12, and I did the ordinary grunts, the soldiers, because they are somewhat uniform. They all look more or less the same. Well, they're dressed sort of similarly. And, well, one thing I could note is for the shields, I used some transfers. I'm not sure if it's coming across here, if it's enough contrast. Painted them all red. In the artwork on the box, they have a sort of hammer device, all of them. I used some transfers from a Space Wolves transfer sheet and just did different devices on each of them, because I thought maybe they're not quite as uniform as all that. Maybe they just paint their own, whatever they think looks cool on the shields. My conclusion about the quality of these minis is that, well, they're okay. I mean, they're mid-range resin. They're not the worst resin I've seen, not the best. They're okay, and I'm not going to put a tremendous amount of effort into any of these minis. I've got the rest of this faction to go and 3 more factions to paint, but you know, I will probably speed paint them, more or less, all of them. And it's not going to be any really careful fancy paint jobs. And yeah, that was all the finished stuff. Quite a lot, actually. What does it come to? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 7, 13 minis. That's a good haul for a week. Even though, you know, 5 of them were mostly finished, but when I started the week. Anyway, let's move on to works in progress. So the first of the works in progress must of course be the rest of these Avalonians. They may not look like they're very far along, but they're not complex figures. Like, well, these are slightly more complex in that they're more varied than those. Soldiers, the troops. But overall, I'm not going to spend a tremendous amount of time on them. You know, I would be very surprised if I couldn't finish these 6 guys by next week. So, what else have I prepped? Well, once more I'd like to show you the prep sort of hands-on by skipping back in time a bit. Let's look at some hassle-free minis. I thought I'd give you just a little midweek tip here. While I'm in the midst of assembly, it struck me that maybe not all of you know exactly what it is I'm doing with these minis. See, these come with these sort of tabs that are supposed to go into slotted bases. But so what do you do when you have a base that has no slot and you don't want to cut a big slot in it? Well, you do the opposite. You cut up the tab. So I use my tools. I have my clippers. These are not plastic sprue clippers. These are actual, you know, real tools. Hobby knife, file. And so I file them down to these little nubs, which are approximately the diameter of my drill bits here. That's what I measure against. And then I just sort of figure out where I want it to stand on the base, kind of mark it, and then I drill holes and I glue it in. Easy peasy. I mean, most of you probably know this, but heck, it's news to somebody. Let's jump forward in time. So this is what it looks like when it's glued in on the base before priming. See, fits pretty seamlessly. And here's this one with the arms added. Now, I chose this base not because it's needed. You see, her feet would have fit on a normal 25mm base without issue. Would have perhaps placed her a little further back. But I kind of like the way the gun is held out at an angle and there's a protrusion of the base at a slightly different angle. It's like at 30 degrees. And I think it adds a bit to the drama of it. And right now you can see the join here at this arm, but I think there's glue actually covering that up, and once the primer is over it, it's going to be smooth. On this arm, the joint, it was much closer fit. However, there is, I don't know if you can see, but there's a slight lump of super glue in the armpit here. It's kind of translucent, but between the rifle stock and the armpit, there's a little bit of glue. And I'm afraid to scrape away at it too vigorously because I might get the whole thing to come loose. And I'm thinking if I just put some really dark color in there, it's going to look like it's a continuation of the stock or just a shadow. So, I think I'll just leave it, not worry at it at the moment. Yeah. So, enough with the time warp, back to the present day. And here they are with the priming all done. I have a little bit of issue with this model. Hopefully you can't tell, but after I put on the primer, I noticed there were some mold lines and I tried to scrape them off, and that started the whole primer layer to peel off, and eventually I just had to strip the whole thing and redo the priming. Oh well, that teaches me to be more careful in the cleanup phase. And there's some rough areas like under the armpits, as I mentioned, still, but you know, nobody's gonna look at that. That's like hidden underneath her back. So I'm gonna just call it good and just hide it with some dark paint. And here's Andrea. This was a one-piece model, so none of that assembly issues. those assembly issues, I should say, and fewer mold lines, so easier to clean up. And then we have the succubi on the Hellscape basis, which have been carefully attached. Now, these bases, you'll notice that they don't have those rims, the black whatchamacallits that they sit in. And the reason is I realized normally when you paint a figure with those kinds of rimmed bases, there's a lot of pointless repetition where they start out black and you want them to be black, but you get primer on them, and then you get will splash or spill paint from other parts of the model on them, and finally you have to just reestablish the black. So a lot of time and energy spent on something that was the right color to begin with. So I realized all I really want to do with those black rims is to kill the plastic sheen on them, and I can do that just with the matte varnish, hopefully. So I will just paint these to completion, and just before the matte varnishing stage I'll glue them in to the rims and then varnish, and boom, we'll be done. That's the theory anyway. And yeah, I hope you're not offended by miniature boobies and butts. That's just the way things are going to be here. Well. Okay, since I didn't use these bases for the succubi, I gotta use them for something. So I decided to see if I can find some character minis I could use for my next character project, next store painting project. And again, I looked into my hassle-free collection, and I picked out a couple of, first from Fantasy Humans Gale, which is a female warrior leaning on an axe, and she's, I think she's naked? Well, the axe is some sort of polearm. Well, this one is a bit risque. Well, she's got some boots on anyway. Not sure if there's any clothing. I mean, she could be wearing some sort of skin-tight outfit, I suppose. Well. And I think she would look appropriate on these bases. Like standing on one of these. Anyway, here's another female human called Jehovah. No, sorry, don't stone me. Genova. Didn't mean to blaspheme there. She's definitely well equipped, not naked at all, full of armor, and I don't know what this thing on her head is supposed to be. I thought it was an afro at first, but then I realized no, she's got hair inside this. It's some sort of weird helmet, and there's a string there. Well, a helmet or hat. There's a piece of string which I suppose is tying this cap together. So maybe she's cold? I don't know. But she definitely looks metal, and standing on a base of cracked earth with skulls embedded in it, that would look really appropriate for her, I think. So yeah, I'm gonna start prepping these two. But my main project prepping for that I'll prep for next week is the next Alchemy faction, and I think I'll do the Empire of the Jade Triad. As you can tell, some sort of vaguely Asian-inspired theme here. The starter box has 5 figures. Here's a single character mini, some sort of wizard, and there's a couple of expansion boxes. This one has just more standard soldiers, 5 of them, and this has a some specialists, some sort of ninjas, but with white masks. I'm not sure why they would have that. What are they called? Funihao and Shadows. So I'm assuming these are the shadows and this is Funihao. Oh well. Yeah. I'm not going to do a full unboxing of these. You know the sort of what they look like because I unboxed the last faction for you, and you've seen some of the painted examples of that, so you know the sort of quality we can expect. As in, you know, not the greatest, but okay. So, you know, I will not do really fancy paint jobs. I mean, whoever did the studio paint job here, probably working from master casts, so better quality than the production minis, and they had hours and hours and hours and hours to make them look really, really good. I probably will not consider it worth spending that much time on them. I'll make them tabletop ready, and that will be it. Yeah. So, another jam-packed episode. Lots to see, lots to talk about. I had fun. I hope you did too. And I hope you'll click like and subscribe and comment and share and be back next week, because I will. Same time, same day, same channel, same Dakian. Till then, let's sign off.